Okay, let's dive right into this fantastic voyage. Today, we are traveling from the familiar, everyday macro world that we can see with our own eyes, all the way down into the invisible, bustling metropolis of the cell. I mean, every living thing you've ever interacted with is built from these microscopic marvels, and understanding them is literally the ultimate key to understanding life itself. Here's the roadmap for today's explainer. We're going to hit the discovery of cells, look at their crazy diversity in size and shape, take a tour inside the cell itself, check out the power organelles, and wrap up by pitting plant cells against animal cells. All right, section 1, the discovery of cells. Let's look at how humanity actually first peered into this hidden microscopic world. It's pretty wild to look at the timeline here. It was all driven by better and better magnification tech. In 1665, Robert Hooke is messing around with a primitive microscope, and then by the 1670s, Antony van Leeuwenhoek, the absolute father of microbiology, is actually watching living red blood cells and bacteria move around with a simple biconvex lens. Fast forward to 1838, Schleiden and Schwann drop the famous cell theory, stating all plants and animals are made of cells. And then Rudolf Virchow tops it off in 1868 by proving that new cells only come from pre-existing ones through cell division. So when Hooke was looking through that early microscope at a thin slice of dead cork, he sketched out these empty, box-like compartments. Without even realizing it, he was actually just looking at the leftover, dried-up walls of dead plant cells. And he famously called these tiny structures cells. Why? Well, he thought they looked exactly like the small, sparse, empty rooms in a monastery, which in Latin were called cellula. The name just stuck. Moving on to section 2. Size, shape, and number. Let's see just how bizarrely diverse these fundamental units can be. First up, it's a numbers game. You've got your unicellular organisms, think amoeba, yeast, and bacteria. They're totally microscopic, usually have a pretty short lifespan, and perform literally every life function inside one single cell. On the flip side, you have multicellular organisms. That's us, your dog, the trees outside. We're rocking millions of cells organized into insanely complex tissues and organ systems, which gives us a much longer lifespan. Now, size-wise, cells are all over the map. Usually, we're talking micrometers, 1/1000th of a millimeter, but some are actually big enough to see with the naked eye. The largest cell found in nature, it's an ostrich egg. It measures a massive 15 centimeters long and 13 centimeters wide. And then you have the complete opposite extreme. While an ostrich egg is wide and bulky, some of your own nerve cells can stretch a full meter long. They have a very specific job, rapidly sending electrical impulses all the way through your body, so that extreme stretched out length is absolutely necessary. In the cellular world, form totally follows function. Skin cells, flat and tightly packed to build a protective barrier. Red blood cells are shaped like little biconcave discs to maximize how much oxygen they can absorb. Meanwhile, white blood cells actually have this weird irregular shape so they can literally squeeze out through your blood capillaries to hunt down germs. All right, section 3, inside the cell. It's time to shrink down and take a walking tour of the specialized structures keeping this microscopic city alive. Think of the selectively permeable cell membrane as the city limits. Everything inside those limits is the protoplasm, the actual living substance of the cell. It's mostly made up of a colorless, jelly-like fluid called the cytoplasm, where all the chemical action happens, plus a denser, spherical body called the nucleus. And right at the control center is that nucleus, the absolute brain of the operation. It's wrapped in a double-layered membrane with tiny pores. Inside it houses a spherical nucleolus and this tangle of thread-like structures called chromatin. That chromatin is super important because it holds the genes, the actual hereditary blueprints passed from parent to offspring. Floating around in the jelly-like cytoplasm are the organelles. These are the city's specialized workers. The endoplasmic reticulum is basically the transport highway, while ribosomes are busy synthesizing proteins. You've got Golgi bodies acting like a cellular post office, packaging materials and lipids for target destinations. And then you have my personal favorite, the lysosomes. They have this intense nickname, suicide bags. They're packed with digestive enzymes to chew up worn-out cell parts. If the cell gets badly damaged, they literally burst open and digest their own cell entirely. Next up, section 4, the cell's power organelles. Let's see how this microscopic city keeps the lights on and manufactures food. Take a look at the mitochondria. Notice those folded finger-like projections inside? Those are called cristae, and they boost the surface area. Mitochondria are famous for being the powerhouses of a cell. Their whole job is cellular respiration, basically breaking down or oxidizing food to release the energy that keeps things running. Now, plant cells have a totally exclusive superpower called plastids. These are specialized power and storage units, and there are three main types. Chloroplasts are packed with green chlorophyll to capture solar energy and manufacture food. That's photosynthesis. Then you've got chromoplasts, loaded with red, orange, and yellow pigments. These give flowers their bright colors to flag down pollinating insects. And lastly, leucoplasts. They're completely colorless and quietly store food as starch, proteins, and fats down in the roots and seeds. All right, final stop. Section 5, plant versus animal cells. Let's spot the differences between these two microscopic neighborhoods. Just glancing at these two side by side, you can instantly see the visual differences. On the left, the plant cell has this very fixed, geometric shape thanks to a rigid outer boundary. But over on the right, the animal cell is a lot more fluid and irregular. To summarize the key structural rules here, plant cells have a hard, non-living cellulose cell wall wrapped around their membrane. They also have massive, permanent vacuoles, basically big membrane-bound hollow structures storing substances. In plants, these are so huge they literally shove the nucleus all the way to the margin of the cell. Animal cells, on the other hand, completely lack a cell wall in plastids. Their vacuoles are much smaller, which keeps their nucleus firmly dead center. Oh, and animal cells uniquely contain centrosomes near the nucleus to help with cell division. And you can see this play out perfectly in the real world. If you prep a slide of an onion peel, you'll see these thick, rectangular, brick-like plant walls packed tightly together, with their nuclei pushed off to the sides. Contrast that with taking a gentle scrape from the inside of your cheek. Look at those animal cells under a microscope, and you'll see flat, irregularly shaped cells with their dark-stained nuclei sitting right squarely in the center. I want to leave you with this one final, provocative thought straight from the reasoning exercises in our source material. We've established the nucleus is the brain of the cell. The textbook plainly states that a cell will die if the nucleus is removed, but take a second to really think about why. If the nucleus is coordinating the ribosomes making proteins, managing the mitochondria, and holding the actual genetic blueprint for everything, what exactly is the chain reaction of failure that happens when it's suddenly gone? It's a fascinating puzzle, and it just highlights how perfectly orchestrated this microscopic unit of life truly is. Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and keep exploring,